Welcome everyone to another startup and automobile documentation. What we're looking at today is a 2018 Audi A5 Premium Plus. This A5 Coupe is painted in Moonlight Blue Metallic. On the key fob, we get the buttons for panic, trunk release, lock and unlock. It does have smart key access for both doors, along with power folding mirrors. Frameless windows. You have power windows, locks, and mirrors, obviously. You have your power trunk release, and the driver also gets two-person memory seating. It has the rock gray interior color scheme with high-gloss walnut wood trim. Leather seat upholstery is standard. Both front seats are fully powered. The driver's one also gets four-way lumbar support. But now that we're behind the wheel, let's go ahead and start the engine. And along with Smart Key, it does have push-button ignition. The A4 and A5 together are Audi's entry in the compact executive segment, directly rivaling the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes-Benz C-Class. The A4 debuted for 1995 to replace the Audi A4, and as of the 2024 model year is in its 5th generation. The A5 is a model that was spun off from the A4. Basically, when the A4 entered its 4th generation for 2008, Audi began marketing the A4's coupe and convertible body styles under the name A5. While sedan and wagon A4s continued under the A4 name. Eventually, a coupe-like 5-door liftback body style was introduced, and that model was called the A5 Sportback, even though it has more than 2 doors. But as of 2024, the A5 is still in its 2nd generation. Now, at the time of me making this, it hasn't happened quite yet, but Audi is actually about to discontinue this naming strategy with the A4 and A5, which I'll elaborate a bit more on a caption you can pause and read. Anyhow, this 2018 model we have here represents the 2nd generation of the A5, which is based on the B9 5th generation of the A4. The 2nd gen A5 debuted in the US market for 2018, a year after the 5th gen A4 that it's based on debuted in the States. 2018 also marked the first time you could get the A5 in the Sportback body style in the US as well. The 2nd generation A5 also, of course, has its high-performance variants, with the S5 making nearly 350 horsepower from a 3-liter turbo V6, and the RS5 making 444 horses via a 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6. As for the US market 2018 model year A5, not counting its S and RS variants, it came in the Premium, Premium Plus, and Prestige trim levels, and also came in the Coupe, Convertible, and Sportback body styles. The engine in the A5 that year was a 2-liter Turbo 4 with just over 250 horsepower. The transmission could be either a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual-clutch auto, the latter of which being what this one has. Interestingly enough, the S5 and RS5 used an 8-speed torque converter automatic. Standard is Audi's famed quattro all-wheel drive system. It has a fully digital gauge cluster, and you can configure it via these buttons on the steering wheel. I guess we'll go over this first. So there are lots of different views. So right now we're on this one. Go through your trip computers, fuel economy, that kind of thing. Then we go over to this one. Now this is the radio screen. Options with that, you can change your source, and we go to phone, and now here, look at that, a whole navigation map screen in the gauge cluster, and then with this view button you can make the gauges bigger or smaller. This is just an awesome thing to have though, and this is like a 6-year-old car, and this is really cutting edge, even still today. Then you can zoom in and out. Massive navigation map right there in front of you. Then you can change the display, all that kind of stuff as well. But at the time of filming, this A5 only has 23,180 miles on it. We've got a 3-spoke design, leather-wrapped and multifunctional steering wheel, sport grips, paddle shifters to manually shift the transmission. Now as for controls, first on this side, you have your audio controls. You can do your volume, seek track, and then you've got your voice command button, hands-free phone, that kind of stuff. And then on this side, we got all the controls for that digital gauge cluster. And the steering wheel is tilt and telescopic. Storage for the driver, headlight switch, climate vent for the driver. Right here we have our high beam and turn signal stalk. And then right here we have our cruise control stalk. And then on this side we got our wiper stalk. Even got rain sensing wipers in this thing. So going down the center of the interior, there is a speaker up top. And right here is our screen for the MMI infotainment system. We'll go over that more in a bit. But for now we got our central climate vents, hazard switch. Now this thing has dual zone automatic climate controls for the front, but it also has tri-zone climate as a whole, so backseat passengers also have their own temperature controls, and you can control that from here as well. And these buttons, you can push them, but it'll also detect if your finger is going to go over it. As you can see, it brings that up. And then we have 3-stage heated front seats. You have your drive mode selector. Your drive modes are comfort, auto, dynamic, and individual. You can toggle on and off your auto start-stop, traction control, parking sensors. You can turn the screen on or off. You have a 12-volt power outlet. 2 cup holders, push button start. And right here is your main set of controls for that infotainment system, since this is not a touchscreen. Looks kind of daunting at first, but then once you get used to it, I find it to be pretty intuitive. Presets, some shortcut buttons. You can go straight to your navigation map, for instance, with that one. Back menu button and then this dial is pretty intuitive to use as well. Push down, go up, down, left or right, and your volume power for the radio. A little bit of storage, electronically operated parking brake, and here is that electronic gear shifter. So push up for reverse. You have a backup camera with guidance lines. All the way down for drive. A little bit up for neutral. Over. You can do your manual mode, either with the shifter or with the paddles. And then push the P for park. You have a center console with a little bit of storage, along with 2 USB-A ports and an aux port. The glove box is lockable. Both sun visors have vanity mirrors and lights. Auto-dimming frameless rear view. Compass in there. Now on the overhead console we have touch-sensitive LED overhead lighting, roadside assistance, garage home link, and we get the controls for our power sunroof. Just do the shade, but have the sunroof open, or vice versa. It's also one-touch auto. And if you want more light, but the roof's still closed, you can put that shade open. Alright, so here is, it's not going to be, I'm not going to promise completely thorough every single last menu button, but here's just a brief overview of the MMI infotainment system. So we're on the main menu now. Go to Vehicle. You can do your drive mode selector, all sorts of vehicle settings. Be here all day if I went through all that. You have driver assistance, any, electronic driving aids, safety systems, air conditioning settings, any maintenance service you might need, onboard owner's manual. Then we go back onto sound, all sorts of sound settings, phone, nav settings. Now these are all settings. We got lots of settings. Parking aid. Then we go to radio. Got AM, FM, Sirius XM. And then you got your other media too, so your Bluetooth audio, that kind of thing. And I believe this is actually a CD player in here. Could be wrong. CD changer, I believe. And I think the map is nicer in the gauge cluster. That's just what I think, but nonetheless, it's a good map here too. Quick overview of that system. For not being a touchscreen, I quite like this setup we have here with this knob. I think it's easy to get used to. But now we'll go ahead and roll down the driver's window and then take a look at the engine bay. Both windows are fully automatic. The A5 standard rims are these 18-inch 10-spoke dynamic design alloys. Powering the US market 2018 A5 is a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4. This engine has an iron block with an aluminum head, along with dual overhead camshafts, 4 valves per cylinder, direct injection, and Audi valve lift. Horsepower is rated at 252 from 5,000 to 6,000 RPM, while torque is rated at 273 pound-feet from 1,600 to 4,500 RPM. The transmission in this one is Audi's S-tronic 7-speed DCT, and power is sent to all 4 wheels via Audi's patented quattro all-wheel drive system. Running on premium unleaded with a 15.3-gallon fuel tank, EPA estimates for an A5 like this one are 24 mpg in the city and 34 mpg on the highway. It has a front and rear multi-link suspension as well as 4-wheel ventilated disc brakes. Curb weight for this one is roughly 3,600 pounds. Both front seats have mat pockets in the backs. Coat hooks. Rear passengers do get cup holders on either side. A little bit of storage. No middle seat. This is a 4-seater. But rear passengers do get not only their own climate vents, but also their own climate controls for your temperature. And there's a little screen that shows up here when the car's on. Another 12-volt power outlet. As well as a folding center armrest with some more storage and 2 more cup holders. This is a surprisingly well-appointed back seat for a 2-door coupe. Doesn't really feel like an afterthought, at least in terms of comfort. You actually get some nice creature comforts, your own climate controls, climate vents, cup holders. So not too bad, but then again, this is a luxury car. Now space back here, I'm about 6'1". This is how far I've got the driver's seat. Right now I can have a bit of legroom with it up that far. Headroom though, my head is kind of hitting against the roof, so it's not going to be the best space back here. I have been in a lot more cramped back seats of two-door coupes than this, but then again, it's not the most spacious. But then again, that's what you'd expect for a car in this body style. Dual exhaust. The trunk of the A5 Coupe offers 11.6 cubic feet of cargo space. For more space, the back seats can also fold down. And as you saw earlier, the fuel cap is on the passenger side. But anyhow, thanks for checking out this tour of this 2018 Audi A5. And as always, stay on the lookout for future tours.